Okay, let's be real. Have you ever been standing in the skincare aisle staring at a bottle of peptide serum and just wondering, what does this stuff actually do? You're not alone. They're everywhere now, in our face creams, our hair serums, promising everything from fewer wrinkles to a thicker mane. But are they the real deal? Well, in this explainer, we're going to figure that out. Here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, we'll decode the whole peptide puzzle. What are they? Then, we'll get into the science by looking at the original copper peptide. From there, we'll take a popular brand, The Ordinary, as a real-world case study. Then, it's time for a dose of reality from a dermatologist, and to wrap it all up, I'll give you a simple guide on how to actually use them in your routine. Because, that's the million-dollar question we're tackling today. Are peptides some kind of miracle ingredient that can truly rebuild our skin and hair? Or is this all just really, really clever marketing? All right, let's start with the basics. To really get the hype, you've got to understand the science first. So what in the world are we even talking about when we say peptides?
Think of it like this. Your skin is a house. The big important proteins like collagen and elastin, those are the walls and the foundation that keep everything firm and bouncy. The amino acids are the individual bricks. So, what are peptides? They're the short chains of those bricks. But more importantly, they act like the foreman on the construction site. They're these little signaling molecules that can tell your skin, hey, we need to build more collagen over here, or, whoa, time to repair this damage.
So that's the theory. But to see how it works in practice, let's zoom in on one of the most well-researched peptides out there, the copper peptide, also known as GHKCU. It's a perfect example of this science in action. The story here is actually pretty cool. It starts way back in 1973. A researcher named Dr. Lauren Picker did this wild experiment where he took liver cells from older patients and put them in blood plasma from younger people, and the old cells started acting young again. He found the secret sauce was a tiny peptide he isolated, which we now know as GHK. By the late 80s, once it was combined with copper, it was making huge waves for its incredible wound healing abilities. And here's the kicker. Here's why this is so important for aging. When we're in our 20s, our bodies are swimming in this stuff, about 200 nanograms per milliliter. But by the time we hit 60, that level plummets to just 80. This massive drop-off is exactly why scientists started thinking, hey, what if we could apply this stuff topically to supplement what our bodies aren't making anymore? So what is GHKCU actually doing for our skin? Well, the research shows it does a ton. It stimulates collagen, which is key for firmness. It promotes new blood vessel growth for a healthy glow. It acts as an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory. And it basically calls in the repair crew when your skin is damaged. All things we definitely want for healthier, more resilient skin. Okay, let's bring this out of the lab and onto our bathroom shelves. We're going to use the brand The Ordinary as our case study, mainly because they've made all these different types of peptide serums super accessible for everyone. The Ordinary has a couple of really popular options that show just how different peptides can be. On one side, you've got something like Matricil. This is a classic signaling peptide, right in line with that GHKCU concept. Its whole job is to tell your skin cells, hey, ramp up collagen production, which leads to firmer skin over time. But then you have something totally different, Argireline. This one's often called Botox in a bottle. It's a neurotransmitter-inhibiting peptide, which is a fancy way of saying it gets in between the signals from your nerves to your muscles. It helps them relax, which can soften the look of expression lines, like crow's feet. So you see, two peptides, two completely different game plans for anti-aging. But it's not just about skin. Peptides have made a huge splash in hair care, and The Ordinary's multi-peptide serum for hair density is probably one of the most talked about products out there. It promises thicker, denser, fuller-looking hair. And the hype online, it is real. You just have to scan the reviews to see people reporting some incredible results. Things like new baby hairs are sprouting up, noticeable growth along my hairline, and that it feels lightweight and not greasy. The stories from users are overwhelmingly positive. But is that the whole picture? With all that amazing feedback, let's bring in an expert for a little reality check. What does a board-certified dermatologist think when they look at the science behind these claims? Well, according to dermatologist Dr. Dre's deep dive, we need to pump the brakes a little. A lot of the fancy trademarked peptide complexes in that hair serum, ingredients with names like Redensil and Procopil, are backed by studies that have some, let's say, major limitations. Often, these studies are paid for by the company that makes the ingredient, and they're done in vitro. That means on cells in a petri dish, which is a very different world from what happens on an actual human head. And then comes the real bombshell. After breaking down all the complex, high-tech peptides in the bottle, Dr. Dre says that the ingredient with the most promising independent research for actually helping with hair growth isn't a peptide at all. It's caffeine. Why? Because solid studies show caffeine can actually get into the hair follicle, stimulate blood flow, and may even fight the hormones linked to hair loss. And her own personal experience? It flies right in the face of those glowing user reviews. After using it consistently for months, she saw zero change in her hair density and actually found that it just made her hair look greasy. It's a perfect example of that huge gap that can exist between marketing hype, what some people experience, and what the hard scientific evidence actually supports. Okay, so we've got the promising science, we've got the real-world products, and we've got a critical expert take. With all that in mind, if you do decide to try peptides, how do you make sure you're doing it right? Let's build a simple, effective routine. Good news is peptides are total team players and really easy to work in. They're best applied right after you cleanse. And here's a little pro tip for you, always apply your serum to slightly damp skin. It really helps with absorption. Just follow that up with your favorite moisturizer to seal it all in. And of course, please always finish with sunscreen in the morning. You gotta protect that investment. And even better news, peptides play well with almost everything else in your routine. They're great with vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, niacinamide. You can even use them with retinol, where they can actually help calm down some of that irritation. The main things you want to avoid are using them at the exact same time as strong acids like AHAs and BHAs. The really low pH of the acids can break down the peptides and make them useless, so just use them on alternate nights. The one other tricky one, be careful mixing vitamin C directly with copper peptides. It's usually best to use them at different times of day, like vitamin C in the morning and copper peptides at night, just to make sure both ingredients can do their jobs properly. And finally, this might be the most important takeaway of all. You do not need 5 different peptide products. More is not better here. Really effective skincare is all about consistency with 1 or 2 really well-formulated products that your skin loves, not about creating some 10-step peptide cocktail. So there you have it. The building blocks are in place. We've seen that peptides are these powerful little messengers with some really promising science behind them, but also that marketing claims can sometimes get way ahead of the hard evidence. They can absolutely be a fantastic, non-irritating tool for supporting your skin's health. The only question left is, will peptides be a part of your blueprint for healthier skin?